Good evening, workshoppers, and thank you for joining me here on tonight's episode. We're literally a month away from BlizzCon right now, the recording of this episode, which is the second. We're 29 days, 30 days to go. How many days are in the month of October? I don't remember. I'm screwing
31.
up. 31. Okay, so yeah, we're 30 days from BlizzCon. It's a month away.
So close.
We're there. Yeah.
I can feel the body heat.
It's like I can touch you. But yes, it's almost time. It's that time of the year. And I want to say this beats Christmas music. For me at least, this is like the BlizzCon time of the year when everyone goes through and starts rolling out their old classic WoW soundtracks. Those great Warcraft 3 tunes. And who can forget Matt Uelman, the lovely Diablo 2 soundtracks.
Literally the best soundtracks of all time.
Of all time. And this is the best soundtracks, some of the best soundtracks from World of Warcraft 2. Burning Crusade was repurposed Diablo 4 music. But before we get into that, and I said Diablo 4, I meant Diablo 3. Diablo 4 is on my mind.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, but here we are, episode 172, almost to BlizzCon, and tonight I'm joined by a special guest and fellow DiabloFans writer, Zenkiki. Let's say hello to the lovely folks at home.
Oh, hi, everybody.
There we go. See, you can do it. Oh, hi.
I did it for you that one time.
Aw, I appreciate it so much.
Yep.
And as you can tell, he's not actually, doing a face model at the moment. It's just a photo, though. It would be cool if you could just do that, because we were talking about your lovely ventriloquist talents, right before we started recording.
I'm literally talking out of my butt right now. I always am, but in particular right now.
In particular, he's just showing off for tonight's episode, is what it is.
Yeah. It's also that I'm only good looking at this angle, so once I capture that angle, I just give it to everybody.
It just you walk around with that picture in front of you. Everywhere
I'm
you
like
go.
this guy's toast, except I'm, that picture. Yeah.
Now it's like I immediately want to go off on a tangent now about Disguised Toast, and the whole mask was just a joke, and he never really cared about protecting his identity or anything like that. But I digress. This is a Diablo podcast. We're gonna talk about Diablo before we start talking about Hearthstone streamers. So.
We only have a limited amount of time, damn it. We're gonna take it all up talking about Diablo.
I guess if we have to. If we have to talk about Diablo, I guess we will.
I want to.
Ooh, but we can start things off with you talking if you want.
Yeah.
And just in particular, go ahead, introduce yourself to people that might not be familiar with you. What is it that you do in the Diablo community, and why are you on my lawn?
Well, we'll start with who am I. I'm a man of many hats. I've worked behind the scenes for a very long time, doing YouTube videos and writing, freelance writing in particular for like Gamepedia and stuff. Most people would know me from this podcast on DiabloFans because a couple years ago I got a job as the community manager there, and I basically handled all of the news and all the community stuff for until the closure of DiabloFans earlier this year. And then when Magic Find picked it up, I hit them up and I was like, hey, I know what I'm doing. And they're like, we do know that you know what you're doing. So they hired me back on, and I've basically been the lead of content over at DiabloFans for this time. But yeah, I've run youtube.com/OSW Guild, and you can find me basically on all social media for that.
I have to ask.
It's my lawn, damn it.
Why? What does the OSW stand for?
Well, originally it stood for Old Spice for Wookiees.
There we go. That's all I wanted to hear.
Yeah, it's a good one, but I think we want to transition it to Ovulating Space Walrus, or whatever your mind goes to with OSW, because I think it's funny. We're working on rebranding, but aside of
rebranding to Space Walruses, okay, I can see it.
Yeah, there's money to be made there. I think
it's an untapped market.
Exactly.
I've not seen that before. Well, I guess.
Exactly.
Well, Tusks. Kevin Smith might have beat you to it.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah.
I thought I was original.
Sorry, there is no originality in the world anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, this is my lawn now. You thought this was your lawn. Now I've kind of taken over. It's mine.
I lived in Florida. I was born in it, not naturally, but molded by it. I didn't see another state until I was already a man. You're on my grounds now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I recently moved down to Florida. I'm just north of you. We have hung out a grand total of like once or twice here in Florida. And I think you owe me a hangout day, but we're going to go hang out at BlizzCon, so it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah. It seems that as soon as you went through and you, after the hurricane passed and you went and you moved down, my theaters have started breaking down. So I want to say you're just sneaking in at the end in the middle of the night and breaking stuff.
Well, I wasn't going to say it, but it's called work compensation. It's making sure that you're always getting extra money.
I'm salaried. That's not extra money.
Well, I tried.
I guess I appreciate the effort, maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. At least I care.
Yeah. I guess we can say that you care. Yeah.
Yeah, I do try.
But yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that that you knew what you were doing in terms of the DiabloFans. That's why they rehired you, because I have no idea why they rehired me then.
Yeah, I think it was just that, they were like, we need another person. Nobody else has applied. We may as well use this guy.
Let's just take that guy. He does something every once in a while.
I think I put in a good word for you. I don't remember.
I wouldn't hold it against you either way, because, technically either one isn't a lie.
Yeah, technically.
Yeah.
Well, normally I'm your boss at DiabloFans. Well, now you're my boss.
I'm the boss now, because we're on we're on BlizzPro grounds now. I can speak. I can say words.
Yeah. This is over international waters.
Yeah, hashtag professional podcast. But since the last episode, I was about to say hour. I do this even when it's just me on the show, because I for so long the podcast had a co-host, so I'm just used to saying us, we, our. So if I say those things, you're now being indoctrinated. So just so you know.
Well, that's cool, because I feel like I'm your co-host in your heart. I always have been.
Always, yeah. always been there. Even when you weren't, you were.
I was there, yeah. That warm, kind of uneasy feeling, yeah, that's been me this entire time.
And here, I thought it was just a skeleton inside trying to get out.
That's creepy, yeah.
And I guess going down the notes, there's been a couple of things that have happened since the last episode, and we actually have a couple of things to talk about. One that I want to go ahead and just kind of like hit straight off the bat is the whole classic games thing. And this one, isn't going to be a surprise for anyone that's been listening to the show. But for those of you that this might be like your first episode, or you might not have heard me talk about this before, is that in the past week, there's been a lot of chatter about Diablo 3 now being a classic games due to a job posting that was posted, I think it was like 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks.
Yeah, and so people going through it, picked up on Reddit, and then a lot of other websites were going through and talking about it. Oh, Diablo 3 is classic games now. But it's been a classic game for over a year. And it's one of those things that we can actually tie back to sometime prior to August of 2018 is when it was handed over to Classic Games. Because when they announced the Switch version, it was all Classic Games. It was Pete Stillwell. He's a senior producer for the Classic Games division. He was not on Team 3. He was Classic Games, and he was the one that was doing the whole press tour for it. And everything that was going through and talking was all Classic Games throughout the whole Switch press tour. And then also, just from what we've kind of learned, it was also Classic Games that developed the themed seasons. And that goes back to the July before that, or was it? Where was it? Looking at my notes, June. So it was June of 2018, and prior to that, at some point it had already been handed off. How early into 2018, we're not sure, but like the evidence was all there that it was a Classic Games handling it. It's just now we've had the first like job posting stating that D3 is on Classic Games.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, like you and I knew quite a bit about this just in our own knowledge, and from the people we were speaking to, like our moderators on DiabloFans, like they had no idea. So it's really easy for this to go under the radar. But yeah, it totally has been happening for quite a while now.
Yeah, and that was just something like, even I had the article up there on the screen. That it seems like people just like they don't want to believe it unless it's actually like officially announced, like, oh, it could be this or it could be that or anything. And even though like all the signs point to it, like just even now there are people that are saying there's no way that they're going to announce Diablo 4, Diablo's dead. It's just until it's in their face. And there was even just like some comments on the webpage that I was replying to that they're like, oh, the big announcement at BlizzCon is going to be that D3 is on Classic Games and they're going to introduce the team. And it was like, they could have introduced the team last year. It's like, no.
Exactly.
They're not going to make some sort of big fanfare about a game going over to the Classic Games division, especially when it was handed off in 2018. We were in the middle of a content drought. It had been like almost a year with we were on the same patch 2.6.1 before we had gotten any other updates. And
that was a dark year.
Yeah, people were crying maintenance mode and such, that it's like, well, we had gone through, what was it, I think three whole seasons on the same patch with no updates, and then we got like we had a couple of themed seasons but with no actual content. So it was just the double bounties, double goblins, and there were no balance changes. And so, and then of course we get to the beginning of 2019, and then now we're getting content, and
we are.
Yeah, and it matches that Classic Games was working on the Switch port, and it's I have no idea how big Classic Games is, but obviously they have limited resources, and they're divided between Warcraft 3, StarCraft, Diablo 2, technically they're still in charge of, though there's not a lot of content being developed for Diablo 2, but they're working on like the StarCraft remastered. They've got the Warcraft 3 Reforged that they have a lot of focus on, and then they still find the time in order to go through and do content updates for Diablo 3. And we know that now there's going to be even more of that. We've got class sets coming, and that was something that I was not expecting.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it either, and I probably had the most optimistic look for Diablo 3. Yeah,
and I want to say that it's probably going to be stretched out, that we might get 2 or 3 a season, and that won't be all at once, but I'm willing to be surprised on that one, but I'm sure we'll probably find out more at BlizzCon.
Yeah, and I was giving you this idea when we first started talking about the extra sets coming in, which is like, yeah, they could release 1 or 2, or maybe even just 1 a season, and then have that season have a theme about that class. Like, you could have, for instance, with a Demon Hunter, you could have a Season of Vengeance and have everybody get a cool effect, like a very Demon Hunter themed effect that isn't particular to the Demon Hunter, but is just themed around the Demon Hunter. And then the Demon Hunter gets their set, and then that's like a really cool season for 3 months. And then, the next one is like the Barb, and so on and so forth. So they could really stretch this pretty thick here.
Yeah, if they wanted to like go that route, and that is, it's 7 classes. Yeah, so that's 7 seasons. That's almost 2 years that it gives them, to release Diablo 4 before they run out of ideas in that that scenario. So that could work. I like that time frame. I definitely like that time frame.
Heck yeah, and especially if we're getting good Diablo 3 content,
Exactly. And then, of course, now we're kind of segueing a little bit into like the next topic, which is going through and talking about BlizzCon 2019 and what we might go through and find there.
But before you go there, I do want to say, because it's so easy for people to look at the Classic Games thing and be like, Diablo 3 is on maintenance mode, but it's way too easy to overlook the fact that we are getting those new sets, we are getting all this new extra content, and they have been updating the game more than we were getting, during that really bad drought. So I think that the game is in a really healthy spot as far as updates are concerned. And they're not just going to give up on it. Hell, they're still doing stuff for Diablo 2, and like they just, re-released Diablo 1 on GOG. Like they care about their old games, and they're not going to give up on Diablo 3. And I want to make that very clear because it's really easy for people to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to play it anymore because there's nothing else coming to the game. It's like, no, there's good stuff coming to the game, and we have good time to wait until whatever the next thing is. And Diablo 3 is a good substitute for that.
Oh, yeah. And, it's one of those ones that we don't even know. We don't even really have an idea now what they're going to do for like future seasonal themes at that. As the Season of the Triune was awesome in the respect that it's something that they hadn't done before. They're willing to go out there and, code entirely new effects, for the season. And then the commitment of getting like a legendary effect on every single legendary item. It's going to give a lot of hope.
Yeah, there could be some really cool stuff there.
I'm still holding out hope for a Fist of the Heavens build for Crusader.
Oh, dude, that would be freaking rad. I would love that.
I want a Fist of the Heavens like there's no tomorrow.
I want a Trap Demon Hunter. I think that would be great.
Yeah, that's one that I sent you kind of like my ideas for like the class sets for potential article and such, and I was having trouble coming up with how to use traps effectively, with everything being so speedy and such with moving around and all that. But I'm sure they're smarter people than I am. They can figure it out.
You're not the game designer, they are.
Exactly. That's not my job. I just comment on everything that they do.
I just criticize them partially.
I don't do your job. My job's to criticize your job. But yes. Where was I? BlizzCon. And we had the virtual ticket announcement.
Yep.
So that one just came up earlier this week. That we've got now, like the virtual ticket, you can go through, you can purchase it. And then they also announced what some of the kind of like the loot, the free gifts that you're getting alongside the virtual ticket or the BlizzCon ticket purchase itself. And you get the pet, you get a transmog for World of Warcraft. For Overwatch, you get some skins. For Hearthstone, you get a card back and a to be announced, legendary. But the StarCraft 2 stuff is like absolutely epic because the Ultralisk is my favorite thing from the original StarCraft. And while I do enjoy the StarCraft 2 design, the StarCraft 1 Ultralisk I thought was just a better concept, though.
It's the hotness.
It is. And then now it's coming back. It is just amazing.
Dude, this stuff that they added for the ticket this year is so good. This is like some of the best quality cosmetic stuff they've come out with ever. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to actually start being able to use this because obviously having a media pass, I have to kind of wait to get my stuff because that kind of takes a lot longer than normal virtual ticket passes that go out for people who own a BlizzCon ticket. So I'm looking forward to getting this stuff in the games. I like the WoW stuff, for example. I was looking at yesterday in game, and I was like blown away by the quality of what they've done here.
Yeah, they definitely put a lot of effort into it when they go and they make some of these. Heroes of the Storm. Yeah, Heroes of the Storm is you got a spray, an icon, and a new mount. But then when it comes to Diablo, it is
there's nothing.
There's not nothing. Last year we got nothing, but this time there's a pair of wings, and stay tuned for more details.
Yeah, to be announced pair of wings.
Now, if they wait all the way to BlizzCon to show off the wings, the only reason in my mind is it's spoilers.
Yeah, it's like a shoe-in for me. For if they do that, it's a shoe-in for some Diablo announcement at BlizzCon.
Yeah, so if they go through it and they debut it between now and BlizzCon, which is still a possibility, and it's just something we're still working on it, and it's like really super cool, and we don't want to show it until it's like fully operational and all that. But that would be cool. But if they're waiting till BlizzCon, then that means it's either something for another game, which I don't know if they'll do like a Diablo 3 reward based on like Immortal or potential, the Diablo 4, Diablo next. But what if they do wings and announce like a new class? Like what if they do a druid and then they have kind of like a
cool.
druidic wings, and that's why they're not showing it off,
Yeah, I think that would be great. And whether it is for whatever the next announcement is, or even a tie-in to Immortal, which, let's be honest, they won't do because they know their messaging has been bad with that. They're not gonna taint that well. That's already tainted.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna try to steer clear of anything regarding that as far as rewards are concerned. So we're not gonna get something for Immortal, but we might get something for whatever the next Diablo game is. Bloodshed had a really good idea. I heard he was talking like, what if it is themed around Warcraft and you get like Valkyr wings? Like, that would be cool too.
That would be really awesome.
That. Yeah, that would be just sexy. I would love that. But I'm feeling kind of like everybody else is. We're gonna get something Diablo related as far as these wings are concerned, and it's gonna be regarding whatever announcement we get. Now, I could be totally wrong, and in the next week we may hear what the wings are, and then that kind of goes out the window. But I think we're all hungry for something cool at BlizzCon this year.
Yep. And now, I'm not a big fan of like the phone memes and such, but there was that one image that popped up on Reddit.
the folding phone?
Yes.
What was it?
It's like the leaked BlizzCon wings. Someone leaked the BlizzCon wings, and I have to say, it's amazing. I love it.
It's a 10 out of 10. It's a solid 10 out of 10.
That to me is just hilarious.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
And you know what? If they did that, I think I would respect them for the rest of my life. Be untaintable.
They did the rainbow and unicorn Diablo 3 logo, and the whole Whimsyshire spawned due to that controversy. I wouldn't put it past them, to be honest. And
I think it would be good.
I think that it would be well received as well. That there's nothing more that they, of course there's Brandy's post from last year that we hear you, we're listening. Nothing would actually communicate that more than actually
satire.
Yeah, than just being like, okay guys, we get it. We screwed the pooch. We didn't handle this well. So here you go. Now you all have phones. If you play Diablo 3, you have a chance at getting a phone. Thank you.
That would be freaking great. I would love that.
Yeah.
Now, we're pretty sure that's not going to be the case, but hey, if it is, good on them.
It's like one of those ones, it's like that might be like the 0.001% chance.
Yeah.
But there's still a chance.
There's still a chance.
There's still
a chance.
I'm saying there's still a chance. That would be beautiful.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, like I said, either it's going to be a Diablo 4 thing or whatever the next Diablo game is, or it's going to tie into possibly like a D2 announcement. I think Classic Games has their work cut out for them at the moment, but they are hiring for stuff, so it's possible that they've managed to do something regarding D2, but it's unlikely. But, there's always something regarding Diablo that they can do wing-wise.
Yeah, and it's an interesting predicament because what do they do after Warcraft 3 Reforged launches?
That is a good predicament to have.
Yeah, because then you're gonna have that's apparently a pretty sizable team from the interview that I did last year for Warcraft 3 Reforged, and that they hired quite a few people in order to go through and get that done, and it. Without proper context, going through and saying it, that Blizzard doesn't really like letting people go, which is not. This is not the year to go through and say that phrase. Most other developers will they'll let go of game developers after they release a title. They'll trim down their development staff and have just like senior level positions as they go through and they begin the work of what's our next game that we're going to make, and then go through and rehire. Blizzard shifts around developers. Like when Heroes was trimmed down, those developers went to other projects. As we found out from Kotaku, when they closed the StarCraft first-person shooter, those developers went to other game titles. Obviously we do have to mention that they don't seem to have the same qualms against letting go of the community members, the GMs, esports, publishing, people in the publishing team and stuff like that, which is unfortunate because I'm of the mind that community managers are part of the development staff. There's a lot of things that they go through and they do that doesn't receive proper credit and such. Maybe of course I'm speaking from
at the beginning of the show.
Yeah,
that I was a community manager. Like I totally relate to that. And they need those people, and you can tell with the lack of communication on almost all fronts this last year. That's because they got rid of all these people. So it is definitely a necessary thing, but. It's not like it was the people's fault. They didn't get released and they didn't get laid off because they were bad employees. They got laid off because, of trimming. So, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it sadly, it really is. But
yeah, those people will have basically a new project to work on once they're done with Warcraft 3. So either they're going to add more stuff to Warcraft 3, which I doubt, or they're going to go through and start a new project. And I could totally see D2 being something like that.
Yeah, because that was, you mentioned Diablo 1, being released on GOG. That's something that they had to go through and decide, hey, we're not going to do Warcraft 2, we're not going to do Diablo 1. So, when GOG approached them, they're like, yeah, sure, we'll go through, we'll provide some support and help, and then CD Projekt Red handled the bringing that up so that way it could run on current systems. And so now it's kind of the question, well, who's doing Diablo 2? Because that's the next one. And that's the next big whale, yeah. Yeah, because that's very high on the requested list on GOG still, I believe, is Diablo 2 and Lord of Destruction. And, well, is GOG going to do it and just release, like the GOG enhanced version so that way it can run on modern systems? Or is Blizzard going to do a remastered for it?
You would imagine that Blizzard's going to do it because they want that money. I'm sure it would be something like Reforged where, you have to buy it and everything. But the difficulty then comes in, like, if they have a Diablo 4 coming and they're going to work on Diablo 2 remastered, like, at what point are you stepping on your own toes there? Do they stagger those releases? Do they bundle them together? Like, how do they handle that? Because we're seeing this exact problem right now with Warcraft. You have retail, and retail is doing well money-wise and everything through all of its additional store stuff like the mounts and whatnot, but you have people who are just going and playing Classic in droves, and sure, you're paying the $15 a month anyways, so they're getting that money regardless, but at what point are they stepping on their own toes there too? So I'm sure they're taking that data and they're going to look at it and figure out kind of how they want to handle D2.
It's like how are you going to stagger those releases? As you said, between the games, because there is sure. it will forever be one of the largest complaints with Diablo 3 is just the fact that it is not Diablo 2.
And I don't like. I love Diablo 2. Don't get me wrong, but I think a game can have its own rights and its own title and still be good and not have to stand on the shoulders of the previous game. I think Diablo 3 is great in its own right. Well, it is now after Reaper, I think, for sure. But, when you look at D2, it does have some pretty serious issues. And just like, WoW Classic does. And are the people who are going to go back and play that going to embrace that like they do with Classic? Or are they going to push it away? We don't actually know because we haven't had that kind of return to Diablo 2 in mass droves like we have with Classic. So I'm curious to see how that would end up happening, if it does happen at all.
Yeah, if it ever does happen, I'm conflicted about whether I want them to fix the Halls of Vought or leave it the way it is.
Yeah, see, it's like little things like that. Big things in some cases. Like, do you leave that in or do you keep it out? And I think they would opt to leave it in because of what they've seen with Classic. But it is a game with broken things in it. Do you leave the broken things in it or do you try to fix it and remaster it? I don't know. Yep.
There's just invisible gas clouds that proc their full duration damage per frame when you move through it. I mean, just like, what's not to love about that?
I mean, that sounds just delicious. Give it to me all.
Oh yeah, it's just when you see the snakes appear, it's like, well, I just not gonna move because I'm not sure if they shot a bone spear when I wasn't looking, when it was out of frame, is it leaves invisible gas clouds that are. It's not just the fact that they're invisible. It's that if you walk through it, every frame that you are moving through the gas cloud, it will do its full duration damage. In addition to in addition to just its regular damage that it's doing to you over time for standing in the gas cloud.
Yeah,
it is dumb. It is, and it's never been fixed. All the bug fixes and such that they've done over the years, and they were more willing to tackle adding additional stash space than they were trying to fix the Halls of Vought. So
yeah. I think BlizzCon, regardless of what happens, is going to be really good this year. Outside of Diablo, you've got some great announcements for Warcraft and possibly for Overwatch and maybe for StarCraft. We'll see how that ends up panning out. It's unlikely, but we have some good projects that are going to be announced this year, and it's going to be fun. But if you add on a great Diablo announcement on top of that, it is going to be one of the best BlizzCons. I can't wait to be there. What do you think they are actually going to announce? Like, what are your predictions for this?
I mean, basically, there's the two big things, and one is that there's pretty much like a science behind it. This is the year that they're going to announce a World of Warcraft expansion. Because
exactly.
They're winding down Battle for Azeroth. They're about to announce the next one. So that's going to be for the largest audience at BlizzCon. Is arguably the WoW players. So they're going to get the new WoW expansion. It's going to hit off. It's going to be that alone will be huge. But then all signs point to Diablo 4. Yeah. I was definitely negative Nancy last year. And I stuck to my guns the entire time. Everyone was on the hype train. Everyone's saying Diablo 4, Diablo 4, Diablo 4, and I was like, it's not going to happen. And then we had that statement from Alan Adham right before the convention that we want to
don't get your hopes up.
Don't get it's like we want to rein in the expectations. Of course, it was too little, too late. But it's like I felt at least a little bit vindicated in that one. That was just it was too soon. It was just hashtag too soon. But
especially with the project cancellations that they've had.
But now it's like one of those ones where even if it wasn't particularly at the point that they would be comfortable with showing it off, I think that they're now backed into a corner that they have to. Yeah, with just the way that the everything press-wise, sentiment-wise, the interactions with the community and such is there's a lot of extra pressure on them to just make the announcement this year.
For sure.
Than there was ever before. Even if it is still 2 years, 3 years down the line. We had to wait 4 years from announcement to release for Diablo 4. We've shown that we're okay with waiting, especially then there's all the patches until we got the Diablo game that we now know and love. It was a rough start.
I think for me if I were I have two parts of me when it comes to a Diablo 4 announcement. The first part of me is hype train Nancy over here, who's like, man, I need to be on that train. I want to see Diablo 4 footage. I want to see what they're working on. I want to see what graphic style they're going for. Are they going dark and gritty, or are they keeping it D3? Like, what are they going to do? But then the other part of me goes, okay, well, let's rein that in a bit. Let's actually think logistically here, because from the standpoint of a game developer, how would they do this if they've recently canned a Diablo project, which we learned about in that Kotaku article, and they restarted development? They're not super far into development. They're far enough in where they could show gameplay footage. Think back to the Diablo 3 announcement when that first was announced, and there was the Witch Doctor, and they fought what ended up being Siegebreaker at the end of it, but they were over in an Act 1 area. It was crazy. It was a cool little demo, that started with the barb and everything, and it was awesome. They could do something kind of like that, but the games industry has been moving away from early looks at games because they know that it takes forever to make a game, and by the time you get to the end, it's not going to be what it was at the start. So they may do some kind of gameplay thing, but it may just be really brief. At the very least, they have to put up a logo, and I think Blizzard knows that. They've heard the community loud and clear being like, why didn't you guys put up a logo last year? And they could have done that, and it would have softened the blow of Immortal. So
immensely.
Yeah, they have to do that this year. They know they have to do that, but are they going to go one step further? Are we going to get graphic, gameplay where it's not just a cinematic? Are we going to get some kind of, look at how the skills work or what classes are in it? I don't know, but I am hopeful for that because they are far enough in development, in my opinion, to at least do one of those Diablo 3 first looks, even if it is way too early.
I mean, but going back to that Kotaku article that you mentioned, it did say, in that article that they almost announced it last year, but it was almost kind of like it was a scramble, not like last minute, but a couple of months beforehand. That they decided that we're not going to make it, so we'll just refocus efforts on the game development because there's a lot that goes into those BlizzCon demos in order to make it playable and be bug free in those early development cycles.
Yeah, and honestly, if that is the case, if they did pull it last year, if we were to believe that, then this year we are having a gameplay demo at BlizzCon. Like, there's no doubt about that.
And that is the one thing where when Diablo 4 was announced at when Diablo 3 was announced at the Worldwide Invitational in 2008, it was playable later that year at BlizzCon 2008.
Yeah, exactly. Here's another thing to consider that not enough people, in my opinion, are talking about, but I see it as very significant news, which is that the floor plan of BlizzCon has changed this year. They moved the place where you got your tickets. Previously, it was downstairs where the store was. They moved all of that out. Now that whole downstairs area, that downstairs hall, has been opened up and is going to have stuff there. So they are opening more floor space. Here's the Storm does not have esports anymore, so that floor space is now also open. That is also with removing the store and all that from the actual convention center. So what is going to be there? We don't know, but obviously they have stuff to put there.
Yeah.
So that kind of puts me on the thought of like, okay, well that makes a lot more sense logistically if they do have a D4 announcement that there's going to be a playable demo. I probably will guarantee that they're gonna have an Immortal demo there too, so you can expect at least
without a doubt
before.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited because it's like it's not just that we got that Kotaku article being like they're working on D4, which is basically what it said, and that was from inside sources. But we also had the potential of them pulling out last year with the announcement. And then, of course, leading up to this event, we're hearing all sorts of, stuff about, like what we're talking about.
Multiple teams working on multiple projects.
Exactly. And it's like, cool. We're feeling pretty confident that they're going to announce something new. It may not be DE4, but it's going to be a new Diablo game that isn't Immortal. And I think that is, like, way up my alley. I cannot wait for it. And I think people should be excited because they know that they cannot screw up this year. They have to deliver. Otherwise, the BlizzCon is going to get burnt down by the Diablo fans. So
we will raise hell.
Yeah, if that... Yeah, that was good. 10 out of 10 joke. Yeah, I think that with that in mind, we have to expect something. And it's really not unreasonable for us to do so.
Yeah, I mean, that's... It like I mentioned at the beginning of this, it's just all signs point to Diablo 4 that it's going to happen, and I guess it is like it's more of framing what will we see. Is it just going to be will it be just like the Elder Scrolls and that we get a picture of some trees and a logo or will we get a playable demo? And I want to say that it will be closer to we'll get a demo, we'll get some hands-on feel.
Yep.
And then we'll see.
Okay, so I want to say our prediction, right? We're saying officially our prediction is we're getting D4, right? You agree with that?
Yes, 100%.
Go one step further. I'm gonna predict it's not just D4. It's also announced that it's coming to consoles day and date. Boom, drop the mic.
Yeah, I mean that also is one that is fairly reasonable. I guess it's like nowadays that would pretty much just be the expectation, especially like post Overwatch. Diablo 3 is it was the first one that hit all current gen consoles, and Overwatch had to follow in its footsteps. So I would definitely see that Diablo 4 same day release PC console, for all of them. And I guess that would be one of those ones where it's just, is it going to be current gen or will it be next gen? Are we talking, Project Scarlet and PS5?
It's got to be next gen, right?
Yeah.
It could be a crossover where it does both, but here's the thing: Blizzard in the past has been really good with being like, "Here's our game. It's scalable. You can play it on a bad PC." Mm-hmm. Are they going to keep that up, or are they going to pull that back? We don't know. But if they do, then yeah, I could see it being on both the Xbox One and whatever the Scarlet ends up being. Personally, I just I just picked up Diablo on the Eternal Collection on the Xbox the other day because my fiance's oldest kid, I wanted to play with them. Mm-hmm. And we don't have an extra PC to play with, so picked it up. I was blown away of how freaking good it is on the Xbox. In some cases, I actually like the controls better than mouse and keyboard. I know that's blasphemous, but in 100% of the cases, I'd rather play on my computer. But man, it's nice to just go sit on the couch and play the game. And if I'm the one feeling that, and I'm running freaking DiabloFans, and I haven't had that moment like everybody else has. Mm-hmm. These other people who have been playing it, that is a massive console market that they've sold this game to, and we have to expect it to be on the next console as well. Like, no doubt.
Without a doubt. They wouldn't have brought it to the Switch if the Xbox and PlayStation versions, weren't successful. Exactly. They obviously found success there. And are going to continue to port it over to all the available platforms.
Yep. Yeah. So my prediction is Diablo 4 day and date on console announcement. Also, some kind of stupid apparel thing. I don't know. Maybe a statue or something that goes along with it. Who knows?
I'm sure that there's going to be they do the poster, like the poster T-shirt combo is
the usual BlizzCon thing.
That's what they usually do for the BlizzCon. Whenever they have the new game announced, there'll be a specific poster that you can get for it in art print. Like there'll be a poster, and then there'll be an art print. If I can move out of the way, like you can't really see it down sitting on the ground. Yeah, somewhere there, somewhere behind me. And then like the T-shirt, hoodies, and stuff like that.
Right. Man, BlizzCon's gonna be good this year. I think everybody should be hyped for it.
If you're a Diablo fan, you should be. You really should be. Yeah. Despite any disappointment that you might have felt from last year's announcement of Immortal, this is going to be the year for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm gonna go out one more thing on BlizzCon announcements. I think we're gonna get a release date for Immortal, if not the same day for BlizzCon.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where it's like that's like the big topic of conversation also that people have been going through and coming up with. Why haven't they talked about Immortal? Why haven't they talked about Immortal? When are they going to talk about Immortal? I thought you didn't want to hear anything about Immortal. That's why they haven't been talking about Immortal.
Yeah, and obviously we'll talk about that in our quick next segment here. But yeah, I'm hyped for BlizzCon. I think everybody should be expecting some kind of good announcement, and it's going to be a good one. And I cannot wait to be there. And speaking of Diablo fans at Immortal or at BlizzCon, wow, that would be bad, wouldn't it?
I'm infectious.
You are. We are going to be at BlizzCon this year, so if you're there, come say hi to us. If you run into us, our ugly mugs, we'll happily come talk some Diablo news with you guys. 110%.
We'll be doing. We're still trying to get details. We will be doing like some sort of like official meetup at some point. Probably. Yeah, probably at. Might be. I guess we'll have to wait for more details. But outside the convention center usually works pretty well because there's a lot of people that might just be in the area that want to stop by.
Yeah, keep an eye on DiabloFans.com
for also, more info. Cool too. Yeah. We try.
Yeah, we try.
But while we're talking about Immortal, we might as well talk about Immortal. And there is the article, which I don't think that we've posted anything about that one yet.
Nope, is that later this week?
Yep. There was a recent interview that was done over on GameSpot with J. Allen Brack, the current president of Blizzard Entertainment. Where he just is going through and is asking like a whole bunch of questions about the vision of the company, where it's going, what their values are, and such. And they talked. It's like one of the first times that they've had some, talking about Immortal. Like in the last couple of months.
Yeah, for sure. Like literally one of the first things that they've ever talked about regarding Immortal for like a year almost.
Yeah, and because the last comments that were made about Immortal, I actually believe was Mike Morhaime himself after he
Yep.
had officially left Blizzard.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly the case. So these are the first official words from Blizzard. That's, not him.
Yeah, it is one of those ones where it's just, it's kind of like that reiteration of we hear you, we realize that we could have handled that a lot better, that we misstepped. And then it also, like, some of the questions earlier in the interview also tie into this one, because they're going through and they're talking about how the Blizzard is mostly developer driven, and that the games that they make are because a developer went through and said, hey, I got this idea, I want to make this game. And Blizzard goes through, sees it, and it's like, well, okay, we'll empower you to go and do that.
Yeah.
Which is basically, and this is something that we kind of already know from post BlizzCon and such, or I guess not post BlizzCon, but at BlizzCon, is that in some of the interviews with Alan Adham, I believe it was specifically that it was a team of Diablo developers from Team 3 approached like the Incubations project because they wanted to work on, they still wanted to work on a Diablo title, but they didn't want to work on like just the next Diablo. They wanted to do something different, and then they kind of came up with the mobile title, for Immortal. And so this was something that was originally pitched by the developers. It wasn't Activision coming down and Blizzard, you need to make a mobile game, and we'll just slap Diablo on there. This is something that the actual developers wanted to do.
Yeah. And this isn't the first time this has happened at Blizzard. If you'll remember when Hearthstone came out, they talked about something very similar where, the team who wanted to do that wanted to make a card game and wanted to make it on mobile as well. Mm-hmm. And when they started playing it on the phones and stuff, even Mike was talking about how, he would go home with like the playtest version and sit there on his couch and just play the game. And I think for the most part, a lot of the Blizzard people were expecting kind of that same natural progression with Immortal, and they weren't expecting the crazy backlash that they got. So I think the people who are working on it are really passionate about it. And from what I remember playing from Immortal, the best way that I can describe it is it kind of is like Torchlight Frontiers in a lot of ways. Have you played the beta or alpha or whatever it is for?
Not Frontiers, no.
So it works kind of the same way that Immortal does, where you have big open
shared environments
areas. Yeah, where you're like going through and you're killing stuff, and you might run across another player who's doing the same thing. Well, that's the same thing in Immortal, except it has some kind of tech in it that allows people who are nearby to be the people who are being tossed into your game. So you could be at like an airport, for example, playing, and people who are within the airport may run past you in the game, and I think that's really freaking cool. And then the game itself plays really well, so they had something good going. What they failed at was the messaging. Mm-hmm. I think almost everybody that I've talked to, actually I think I can say definitively everybody I've talked to who played Immortal last year agreed with me with being like, it plays really well. It is a cool little game on the phone. I'm excited to see more. But man, that messaging really just tainted the well, and that's unfortunate because, again, I think Blizzard was expecting to like go into a Hearthstone-like experience where all of a sudden it felt natural to be on the phone with it. Mm-hmm. It just unfortunately didn't go that way. So we'll see how they change their messaging. I think it's going to be really hard to get people in on it, but if people start playing it, it's going to be a huge success, and it's going to make them a ton of money. And we'll see if we hear about microtransaction stuff this year. Who knows? They know. They screwed up.
Yeah, and that also like ties into one of the other theories that I've had on the show for a while, is that they're not going to talk about Immortal until they can answer those microtransaction questions. Yeah, they know, after the response that they got, anything that they release, any type of like press interviews that they try to do or anything along those lines, it's going to be met with nothing but, well, one, memes, and two, it's like, well, what's the monetization going to be? And until they can have the answer to that question, they're just going to keep everything shut. And so that's going to be, I would definitely expect that we'll have a couple of Immortal panels at BlizzCon this year to talk about, specifically, like, well, here's demos for all of the classes now. Here's the release date, and then this is the monetization system, that we have planned, for the game itself. Here's all the cards. Here's everything on the table. You'll have the game in a month. Then give us your opinion. What is it going to be?
Yeah, I could totally see them trying to do the whole like Fallout Shelter thing, where all of a sudden they announce D4 and they're like, but that's not all. Immortal is now out right now, and you can download it right now. But here's all the details on it. This is everything in it, and in a way, it would be really good for them to do that. It would keep people's appetite fed a bit with, like, we're getting a new Diablo game, exciting. Ooh, with all that new excitement that's in my body, I can project all of that energy into my phone, which I happen to have on me at BlizzCon. I don't know. I think it might be okay if they did that. It's dangerous. Either they're gonna get lynched or they're gonna get applauded, and I don't think there's a middle ground there.
No, and I want to say that despite whatever it is that they do, the initial kickback and reaction is going to be overly negative from the community. Despite, they can make the entire game free to play, no microtransactions, no paid cosmetics, and then there's continual free updates, for all of time, and people will still react negatively to it because that's just that's just what that's just what the Diablo community does.
And it's unfortunate because I think that there is a good game there.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. It's just going to take time. It's just going to take time for streamers. Is we were talking about this before the show that, like, Riker had a very measured response, to Diablo Immortal. While he could see the potential in it, he was worried because the fan reaction was going to leave a huge rift between, Blizzard and the community. That also that affects him as a content creator, because he wants to go through and cover Diablo, but if the community doesn't want to see anything of it, how is him as an entertainer and content creator going to make a living if no one is going to want to watch his YouTube videos or his streams about Immortal?
Exactly.
And then when in one of his first streams that he did after coming back, he did a poll, do you guys want to see me play Diablo Immortal? And it was overwhelmingly yes. A yes with the context of, well, I don't want to play it, but I still want to see it. And so there's definitely the interest there within the community that they do want to see the game, and they are. And I think that's without people admitting to it. I think that's like the first step towards acceptance of well, I don't like the game, but I'll watch someone play it. And I guess that looks okay. I'll give it a try. Like it's the first level thing, because we all want a new Diablo game. We all want the next generation experience. We all want we would all love Diablo 3 to have like these huge shared communal areas. We'd all love Diablo 3 to have continual story updates and regular patch and content updates and such. With new zones, new areas, new stories, raid-like content and such. Diablo 3 players would love that, and that's what Immortal is.
Exactly.
And so the concept and the things that we as Diablo players want are there. It's just
100%.
Like you were mentioning, it was all about the way that the message itself was communicated. And
this article goes on. And Jay talks about the fact that he reiterates that they are a PC developer first and foremost. They are a PC developer, which kind of again reiterates like, hey, we got a new game that we're working on, but we can't tell you about it yet because we want to announce it, at BlizzCon.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes on to be like, but I can't imagine people who are a Diablo, a fan of Diablo, also not being people who play on the console or play on their Switch and stuff like that. And it's true, these people have multiple stuff that they play on. Most people do. If you're an average person in the United States, you have a computer and you have a console. Not saying everybody does, but the average person does, and the average person has played Diablo on one or two of those. And it's without a shadow of a doubt, if they also had it on their phone, they would play it on that too. So I think Blizzard's like the way that they've handled the messaging has been bad, but their strategy is good. We have more people that could be playing Diablo at any given point because they have their phones, and they're capable of making a good Diablo game on the phone. I mean, hell, the game is on console and it's really good. On the phone, you wouldn't expect it to be, but the touchseen actually really works well for it.
It did. It was a fun game. Like you were mentioning, almost everyone that I spoke to at BlizzCon, it was overwhelmingly positive. Even some people that would then later, go home for BlizzCon and make negative videos about it and such on the convention room floor, behind closed doors. They were like, oh yeah, I love the game, it was great, and then later went on to say, oh, it was garbage, I hated it. Or one of the other popular ones is like, oh well, I didn't hate it.
That's a pretty common one.
Yeah, which is, to me, is sad. It's sad that it was just like the reaction was just so over the top that you can't even express your actual opinion of the game. You're scared to actually talk or say anything positive about it. That's to me was one of those things when the community's response was just a little bit too much. It's okay if you don't like it, but to make people afraid to share a positive opinion. That of course isn't the case nowadays. Like, you can go through and positively talk about Diablo Immortal. You'll get hit with the memes and phone jokes and such, but it's definitely,
you're not going to get lynched anymore.
No.
I think if they do give us some kind of Immortal demo or beta or something at BlizzCon, if you guys out there are listening and you're like, maybe I'll give it a try, hop in, download it, play the monk. I think the monk will be the thing that sells you on it, because it plays really freaking good on that.
Yeah, the monk was definitely, at least in that demo that we had, it was the most. Yeah, it was the most well developed of the classes, with the wizard being the worst.
Yeah, it was quick and snappy, and honestly, the graphics were a little bit better than they seemed to be on D3. And I have like a top tier PC, so I'm running the game at crazy FPS, and everything's turned up, so it's not like I'm running on a potato. But like the models and stuff in Immortal looked really good, and it gives me hope that whatever they're doing for their next major PC game, that it's going to kind of take that fidelity up even more, because you open your character on D3, you hit escape or whatever, and you're just like, oh god, that model is awful. The textures are low quality.
That's so 7 years ago. God,
it's bad. Yeah, it's not the greatest. So I would love to see like an increase in that, obviously.
Yeah, which I'm not sure we're ever going to see for Diablo 3 in particular, but
no, except just that Mal'Ganis pet, man. That Mal'Ganis pet is high quality.
Yeah, let's we can look forward to maybe some pretty decent graphics in Diablo 4.
Oh
yeah,
like
I mean,
wings.
Yeah, wings, of course, wings.
There might be some pretty hot wings for D3. We'll see.
Yep. Well, that is the question. Will we see it between now and BlizzCon? And will they be phones? Will they be phones that just continually play the Diablo Immortal intro trailer?
God, that would be great.
Wouldn't
I would
it?
love that. I would never take those stupid things off.
I would wear it just to troll people in public games.
Oh, of course, yeah. 100%.
110%.
That might be the best. If they did that, that would be the best meme for a company to have ever done.
And then at that point, they're taking control of the joke.
Yeah. Exactly. You know what? That's good. We should work for Blizzard.
We should work for Blizzard. See, this is definitely like top tier producing jobs right here.
Exactly. Brandy, get us on job. Where are you?
Come on now. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much gonna kind of wrap things up there. Unless you wanted to talk, unless there's anything else that you want to talk about, because I want to say, I think Watson pointed out in chat earlier that like last year I think it was either the floor plan or the schedule was released on the 15th.
You're right, yeah.
And so we've got it was the floor map was released on the 15th. So by the time that we have the next episode, might have that, with which where things are going to be placed. Are we going to have more giant open areas? And then is
like, you mean like where the Immortal stream area was before, where it's like, wow, why is all that floor space just sitting there?
Yep. And then which company was it that leaked it like the day before BlizzCon? Was it Razer?
I believe it was one of those companies. Might be like Corsair?
Yeah. Oh, it was Corsair. You're right. It was Corsair.
Yeah.
That leaked their like a different floor map, and it had Diablo demo area. Thankfully, it didn't say like Immortal or anything like that, but it was Diablo demo area.
Yeah, I remember that because I was so hyped. I saw that we got there like way early for BlizzCon. We were there like the previous week. And we were sitting in our Airbnb, and I saw that, and I was like, oh, "Be still, my beating heart."
Yep. Which actually, that's what I'm doing this year. I'm flying in on the 25th.
Jeez, bro.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, but I'm flying into San Diego, and I'm going to be competing in a Warhammer tournament. Down in San Diego, and then I'm coming back up that like Sunday night or Monday. To visit some family that's up in LA, and then coming back down to the Anaheim area on Wednesday.
I would satirically call you a nerd, but I can't anymore because you got that freaking amazing mini from what's his butt that I'm blanking the name on.
Jay Wilson, which is can I point at it? There we go, right there in the background.
Just give it to me.
No, I'll let.
You live like 30 minutes from me. Can I see it?
I'll let you touch it.
Okay. Empower me.
Well,
good luck in that tournament. It's pretty cool that you get to go down early and compete and everything.
Yeah, it was one of those ones. It's the specific game system is Underworlds, that's the little kind of like it's the more competitive, like it's like the board / collectible card game type thing. Yeah, HeroClix and Magic the Gathering had a bastard child, and that's what you get.
And there you go.
Yep. So
Warhammer.
Yep, I'm super excited for it. This is gonna be like, I do really well, like in the local tournaments and such, but the pond is very small, so I could just be the smart kid in the dumb class.
That's rude. Jeez.
But it's like just one of those ones where it's I can't wait to get into a more competitive environment and see where I really stack up.
Yeah, that would be cool. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Me for leading up to BlizzCon, man, it's a lot of hype. That's for sure. I get there the day before. I get there on the 31st. I leave the day right after, but I am really looking forward to going. That's for sure.
Yep. Well, at least, I mean, on the 31st, at least, you show up in time that you pick up your tickets and such.
Yeah, barely.
Yeah, but oh man, I think like the worst part though is like you're leaving on the 3rd. Like, that one's rough.
Yeah, especially it's at 7 a.m. So it's
even
worse.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's cool. I don't mind it. I get to go to BlizzCon. I'm just not gonna sleep that night.
Yeah, because Saturday night, that's drinking night. Because it's like Friday night you can do a little bit of drinking, but you got to be up early for Saturday and such and do all other type of stuff. But Sunday is like your dead day, so Saturday night is just that's drinking night.
I'm just gonna be playing Diablo Immortal on my phone all night.
So we hope.
Yeah, we shall see.
But God, data. And just any type of cell phone signal at BlizzCon is just horrible.
It is atrocious.
Yeah.
Last year, mine was great until you got to where the StarCraft area was. Then it would just die. Mm-hmm. And then if you managed to get to the Overwatch arena, it would be fine again. But apparently there was just like a giant dead spot in the middle of the convention center for me.
And then in previous years, it actually was just there was so many people that the data networks couldn't keep up with it. Yeah,
Yep.
and that was something that I was still getting, at least like on AT&T. A couple of times during the convention, I'd have like full bars, full signal, but then like there just would be like no data, and so I wasn't able to like get a call out or text message or anything. And so just that point, connecting to the convention Wi-Fi and just messaging people on Twitter was the best way of actually, nerds. Just the best way of contacting people during the convention itself.
Yeah. Too many nerds sucking on that straw.
Yeah. Get off my datas. I need my datas.
I pay for this data. It's mine.
I pay for it. I don't care if you pay for it too.
I'm more important for whatever reason. I don't know.
No, I'm totally not. You might be, but I'm not.
I don't think I am. I just look more important. That's the key. If you look like you belong, everybody wants to talk to you. That's what I do.
That's so true. That'll actually probably be something more for the after show. But just I have so many stories at work. But I think that will probably, unless there's anything else that you'd like to add, I think that's going to kind of wrap up the episode here.
I feel like this was probably your best show that you've had ever.
Ooh, man. Look at that.
I'm kidding. It was probably one of the worst. But hey, I'm glad that I could come join you, talk with you. We've been talking about this for a while now. Mm-hmm. I've been lording it over you because I'm technically your boss elsewhere. So
technically, yeah.
Making you feel bad that you haven't come and visited me. Like, I'm literally 30 minutes north from you. You could just drive up.
I have a counterpoint. I do have a counterpoint. Okay. You are literally 30 minutes north of me. You could come down and visit.
I could, but kids, got my fiance's kids there.
You could bring them too. We've got a pool.
We have 3 pools.
Well, so there you go.
Joking.
I mean, you just drop. So what? You just drop the kids off at each individual pool.
Yeah.
This is you're in pool 2 today. Go.
Yeah, pool 2. You didn't eat your dinner last night. You're in pool 1. Yeah, that's the one where the kids pee. Yep. You like that one, don't you?
And on that note, just would like to go through and thank you all again for going and joining us here live or listening to the YouTube or iTunes or Stitcher version of the show. If there's any questions, comments, or epic loot that you want to go through and show off, please feel free to share them with the show here at Westmarch Workshop at BlizzPro.com. Again, that is Westmarch Workshop at BlizzPro.com. You can also follow the show on Twitter at the WM Workshop. You can follow me personally at Neinball Gamer on Twitter. And you can always go through and catch the live stream of the show at twitch.tv/BlizzPro at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Normally record on Wednesdays, but for the next couple of months, that is likely going to change due to some work-related events that are going to cause me to not be able to record Wednesday nights. So just stay tuned to the Twitter page for changes, revolving, when I'll be recording live. It shouldn't affect anything on the YouTube or iTunes side of it if you listen, via those channels. But also, you can catch, all the things that we talk about here on the show and more at diablo.blizzpro.com, or on DiabloFans, because I'm a writer over there, so I'll plug that away too. And we are even in game. We are the BlizzPro clan. If you want to go through and join us, in Sanctuary, feel free to stop by. I already plugged my personal Twitter, at Neinball Gamer, and then my once, every 5 years that I stream over at twitch.tv/Neinball. Feel free, go to town. Where can we find you? Where can plug all of your stuff? Plug all your holes.
Okay. Wow. Wait, what? So you can find me at youtube.com/OSWGuild, twitter.com/OSWGuild. Now that is letters OSW, then the word guild, all one word. You can also find me on Facebook with kind of the same stuff. It's you go over to DiabloFans. I'm everywhere. I'm on Reddit. But apparently I'm supposed to tell you that Jar Jar's the best Star Wars character, and I think that's where I end.
Well, thank you for going through and being on the show. We hope to never see you again. Yep, the key thing is that I forgot to warn you, just don't listen to anything that Longshot has to say.
Oh, no. He's paying me. I got a check in the mail.
Well, at least your check came in. I never got paid for my acting that I did over at BlizzCon, apparently.
Yep.
But with that, we'll bring things to a close. So, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.